Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air shift without saying a word? People glance at you, then quickly look away. Conversations quiet down. Someone fidgets with their hands, another adjusts their posture, and a few seem almost nervous in your presence. You didn't raise your voice, you didn't demand attention, and yet people react to you. This is the paradox of aura. It's the silent energy that precedes you, the presence that lingers even when you don't intend it. And here's the catch. Often, the very people who feel intimidated by you will never admit it. They might cover it up with politeness, subtle defensiveness, or even quiet admiration. But underneath the surface, your aura unsettles something in them. The philosopher Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Your presence doesn't just enter a room, it transforms it, sometimes in ways you don't realize. In this video, we'll explore 13 aura secrets that make people feel intimidated by you, without you even knowing it. Each of these is not about arrogance, ego, or superiority. Instead, they are about the unspoken weight of authenticity, the gravity of self-awareness, and the silent force of character. So if you've ever wondered why some people seem nervous around you, why you draw reactions you didn't ask for, or why your presence feels different, stay tuned. By the end, you may see yourself in a whole new light. Let's begin. We live in a culture that equates confidence with volume. The loudest person in the room often seems to be the most powerful, or so people think. But true presence doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, and that whisper can be far more unsettling. When you carry silence with you, people notice. You don't rush to fill every gap in conversation. You don't feel the need to out-talk others. You listen. You observe. And in that stillness, people project their own insecurities. Philosophers like Lao Tzu praised this kind of presence. He wrote, "Silence is a source of great strength. To be silent is not to be weak. It is to stand in your own self-possession, unshaken by the chaos of noise around you." Think about it. Silence forces others to confront themselves. Most people fear empty space in a conversation because it reveals too much. It exposes uncertainty. But when you hold that silence with comfort, it makes others restless. They wonder what you're thinking. They wonder what you've already noticed about them. And this uncertainty feels intimidating. Take a simple example. Imagine you're in a meeting, and while others debate, raise voices, and try to dominate, you remain quiet, watching, waiting, listening. Eventually, someone turns to you and asks, "What do you think?" And when you finally speak, your words carry disproportionate weight, not because you spoke the most, but because your silence built anticipation. Psychologically, this phenomenon is called the silence effect. Research shows that when a person is less reactive and more observant, others attribute greater authority to them, even if they never claim it. Your silence creates an invisible pressure. It demands respect. It makes others adjust their behavior around you, even without you asking. But here's the deeper truth. People are not intimidated by your silence itself. They are intimidated by what it represents: control, patience, and inner strength. Most people can't sit with silence because they're too anxious to fill it. But you've learned that silence is not emptiness, it's power. And that's why your aura unsettles them, even when you don't mean to. Most people look without really seeing. Their eyes skim across faces, their attention scattered, their gaze fleeting. But your eye contact, it lingers, it penetrates. It makes people feel as though you're not just looking at them, you're looking into them. This unnerves people. Why? Because genuine eye contact strips away the layers of pretense they usually hide behind. Suddenly, the mask of small talk, of politeness, of practiced confidence begins to falter. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Hell is other people." What he meant is that in the gaze of another, we are exposed. Our fragile sense of self is held up like a mirror, and we cannot escape it. Your eyes, steady and unflinching, become that mirror for others. In psychology, strong eye contact is linked to dominance, confidence, and sincerity. But it also triggers discomfort in those who feel insecure. It's as if your gaze forces them to reveal truths they weren't ready to face, even if you never say a word. Think of the last time you locked eyes with someone and they quickly looked away, almost as if they'd been caught. That's not random. That's the aura of intensity your eyes carry. This doesn't mean you're trying to intimidate anyone. It means your presence doesn't allow for superficiality. And for people used to hiding in the safety of shallowness, that is terrifying. Here's something subtle yet powerful. People can sense the standards you live by, even when you never preach them. You don't settle for mediocrity. You don't entertain drama. You don't play into games of manipulation. Your choices, your discipline, your refusal to compromise your values, all of it radiates from you like a signal, and people feel it. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Become who you are." To live authentically requires a kind of courage most people run from. It means holding yourself accountable to principles that are not convenient, but necessary. When others are around you, they feel the silent weight of those standards. Suddenly, their excuses don't sound so convincing. Their shortcuts don't look so clever. Your aura doesn't judge them directly. It simply reminds them of what they're avoiding within themselves. This is why some people feel inspired by you while others feel threatened. To live with high standards is to live with invisible authority. And that authority, even when unspoken, intimidates. Consider this. In a group of friends, one person casually suggests something reckless, maybe staying out late before an important commitment. Others laugh, nod along, but when they glance at you, they hesitate. They know you won't bend so easily. That hesitation is not about you being strict. It's about them recognizing a discipline they secretly admire but can't embody. And so your standards become intimidating, not because you enforce them, but because you embody them. We live in a time of oversharing. Social media encourages constant exposure. Every meal photographed, every thought tweeted, every feeling posted. Most people bleed their lives out for the world to consume. But you hold something back. You don't reveal everything at once. You don't feel the need to explain yourself constantly. You're not an open book for anyone to skim through. And this restraint, this air of mystery, creates both fascination and intimidation. The unknown is always more powerful than the known. History proves this. Think of how ancient civilizations filled gaps in knowledge with myths and legends. The less they understood, the more awe or fear they felt. Your mystery functions the same way. People can't pin you down. They can't predict your next move. They can't quite figure out what drives you. And because the human mind craves certainty, your unpredictability feels dangerous. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." In your case, people often only understand you in hindsight. At first, you puzzle them. Later, they realize your choices weren't random, but deeply intentional. There's a kind of confidence that is loud, flashy, and performative, the kind built on fragile ego. And then there's another kind, quiet, grounded, unshakable. The latter is what you carry, and it's the kind that unsettles people the most. Your confidence doesn't depend on external validation. You don't need constant praise to feel secure. You don't beg for attention. In fact, you often seem content without it. And this quiet confidence has a paradoxical effect. It draws people in while simultaneously intimidating them. The ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, believed true strength lies in self-mastery. Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." You, however, have flipped this truth. You care more about living in alignment with your own values than chasing approval. Psychologists call this internal locus of control, the belief that you govern your own life, rather than being a victim of external circumstances. People sense this in you, and it makes them both admire and fear you. Why fear? Because your self-possession highlights their lack of it. Your calm presence, your ability to walk into a room without overcompensating, forces others to confront their own insecurities. Consider a scenario. At a social event, most people chatter nervously, trying to prove themselves. You, however, remain grounded, engaging when necessary but never desperate to be the center of attention. Without meaning to, you shift the entire dynamic. People think, why is this person so comfortable in their own skin? What do they know that I don't? It's not arrogance, it's authenticity. And authenticity in a world built on facades feels intimidating. Small talk is the default language of most people. It's safe, it's easy, it requires no vulnerability. Weather, sports, daily routines, these are the protective shields people use to avoid real connection. But you don't thrive in shallowness. You naturally gravitate toward deeper conversations, ideas, meaning, philosophy, psychology, truth. When you ask questions, they're not surface level. You ask things like, what drives you? Or, what do you fear losing the most? You aren't afraid of silence, and you aren't afraid of depth. And this unsettles people, because depth requires exposure. Philosopher Socrates was infamous for this. His method of questioning wasn't about small talk. It was about drilling into the very foundations of belief. And people feared him for it. His questions dismantled illusions, and illusions are what most people cling to for comfort. You embody this same energy. When you engage with others, they feel both seen and challenged. It's as if your presence demands honesty, both from them and from yourself. Psychologically, this is known as high social presence. People sense that your attention is focused and undivided, which amplifies their awareness of themselves. Some respond with openness, others with defensiveness. Picture this. Someone expects a casual chat, but within minutes, you've led them into a deeper reflection about their life choices. They laugh nervously, they deflect, or they suddenly change the subject. Why? Because depth terrifies those who have spent years avoiding their inner truths. Your aura says, I don't live on the surface. And that very depth, while magnetic, is intimidating to those still drowning in shallow waters. Here's a rare trait. You are not afraid of being alone. In fact, you often find solitude restorative, not threatening. Most people cling to constant stimulation, social media, noise, parties, endless distractions. They equate solitude with loneliness. But you've discovered what philosophers and mystics across history have known. Solitude is where strength is forged. Nietzsche called solitude the school of genius. He believed only those willing to step away from the crowd could discover their true selves. Similarly, in Eastern philosophy, monks retreat into silence not to escape life, but to sharpen their inner vision. When people notice that you're comfortable with solitude, it unsettles them, because deep down they fear being left alone with their own thoughts. They fear the silence of their own mind. Imagine this. While others scramble to fill their weekends with constant activity, you're at peace spending time alone, reading, reflecting, working on personal projects. To you, solitude is a sanctuary. To them, it's a nightmare. Psychologically, this signals independence. People realize you don't rely on external validation to feel whole, and that independence is intimidating because it means you cannot be controlled by approval or rejection. Your aura whispers, I am enough on my own. And in a world addicted to distraction, that truth feels revolutionary and frightening. In today's world, words are cheap. Endless chatter fills the air. Opinions shouted online, arguments over trivial things, and conversations where people talk without really saying anything. But you don't waste words. When you speak, you do so with purpose. You don't feel the need to dominate a conversation, but when you do contribute, your words land with weight. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Clear, calm, intentional. This unsettles people, because while they scatter words like confetti, your speech is like a sharpened blade, precise, cutting through the noise. Philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." You embody this truth. Your listening makes your speaking powerful. Psychologists call this communication economy. People who speak less but with clarity are perceived as more intelligent, more confident, and more trustworthy. But it also makes others nervous, because they wonder, what are you thinking when you're not speaking? What judgments are you silently making? Imagine being in a group discussion. Others argue, repeat themselves, and circle around ideas. Then you add a few words, sharp, distilled, and undeniable. The entire room shifts. Not because you spoke the loudest, but because you spoke the most necessary. This is why your aura intimidates. Your words are not many, but they are meaningful. And people fear meaning more than noise. Most people spend their lives in subtle performance. They smile when they don't mean it. They laugh at jokes that aren't funny. They pretend to agree to avoid conflict. These small lies grease the wheels of social interaction, but they also create a culture of falseness. You, however, don't play these games. Your authenticity doesn't bend for approval. You don't flatter for gain. You don't fake enthusiasm. And this raw honesty, though refreshing, can feel intimidating. Philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once remarked that most people prefer illusion to truth because illusion is easier to digest. When you refuse to participate in illusions, people feel exposed. Psychologically, this links to what researchers call low self-monitoring. While many people adjust their personalities like masks to fit each situation, you remain largely the same. You are consistent, predictable in principle, not in behavior. This unsettles people because it means you can't be manipulated. They can't lure you into shallow games of approval seeking because your worth isn't tied to their acceptance. Picture this. Someone tries to boast in front of you to gain status. Instead of feeding into it, you remain neutral, unimpressed. Without saying a word, your lack of reaction dismantles their performance. To them, this feels threatening. Your aura communicates, "I don't need to play along." And in a world addicted to games, the refusal to play makes you stand out and intimidate. Most people operate within patterns. They do what's expected, say what's safe, follow predictable scripts. This makes them comfortable to be around, because people know what to expect. But you don't always move within those lines. Your decisions surprise people. Your choices don't always follow conventional logic. Sometimes you withdraw when others expect you to engage. Other times you step forward boldly when least expected. You are not chaotic, but you are not easily predictable either. This unpredictability keeps people on edge. They cannot anticipate how you will react, and that uncertainty creates both intrigue and intimidation. Philosopher Heraclitus famously said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." You embody this truth. You evolve, you adapt, you refuse to be fixed in one identity. Psychologically, unpredictability is tied to power. Studies in behavioral science show that when someone cannot predict another's actions, they attribute more control and dominance to that person, even if the unpredictability is subtle. Consider this. In a work setting, most people follow the expected script during meetings. You, however, might suddenly challenge a flawed idea or withdraw your support from something everyone else blindly agrees to. This unpredictability disrupts the flow, forcing others to take you seriously. Your aura says, "Don't assume you know me," and that refusal to be boxed in is both magnetic and intimidating. Most people are easily rattled. Stress shows on their faces, panic echoes in their voices, and chaos disrupts their inner balance. But you remain calm. When tension rises, you don't flinch. When others lose control, your composure deepens. And this ability, this steadiness, feels almost supernatural to those who haven't mastered themselves. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. You embody this wisdom. You don't crumble under imagined disasters, nor do you panic when real ones arrive. You carry yourself with a presence that suggests, I can handle this. Psychologists call this emotional regulation. It's the ability to manage inner states despite outer turmoil. And when people see this in you, they're both drawn to it and intimidated by it, because your calm exposes their chaos. Picture this. In a heated argument, voices rise, tempers flare, but you remain steady, measured, collected, unshaken. This composure disarms aggressors more than shouting ever could. They realize they cannot destabilize you, and that realization unsettles them. Your aura whispers, storms do not move me. And that quiet resilience makes others question their own strength. Respect is a strange thing. Some chase it desperately, demanding recognition, insisting on authority, craving validation. But the harder they grasp, the less respect they receive. You, however, don't demand it. You embody it. Through your discipline, your values, your consistency, you create an aura that naturally commands respect. People may not always agree with you, but they sense the gravity in how you carry yourself. Immanuel Kant once argued that dignity is not something given. It is inherent in the way a person lives according to moral law. Similarly, your dignity doesn't scream. It radiates. It's in the way you treat others with fairness, the way you refuse to compromise principles for convenience, the way you live with integrity when no one is watching. Psychologically, this is connected to what researchers call implicit leadership. People often defer to those who embody authority naturally, without needing to flaunt it. And when you walk into a room, this silent authority is felt, even if unspoken. Imagine this. In a group project, others jockey for control. But eventually everyone turns to you, not because you demanded leadership, but because your composure, clarity, and reliability made you the natural anchor. That quiet authority intimidates those who rely on performance instead of substance. Your aura says, I do not chase respect. I embody it. And that is more commanding than any demand could ever be. Here is the most profound reason your aura intimidates people. You remind them of what they could be, but aren't. Your discipline, your presence, your self-awareness, all of it acts like a mirror. People see in you the version of themselves they've avoided becoming, and this reflection can be uncomfortable, even painful. The philosopher Kierkegaard spoke of despair as the sickness of not becoming who we are meant to be. Your aura triggers this despair in others, not because you inflict it, but because you reveal it. When people are around you, they sense their own compromises, their wasted time, their neglected dreams, their fear of solitude, their avoidance of truth. You don't point these out. Your very being does. This is why some admire you and others resent you. For some, you are proof that authenticity is possible. For others, you are a painful reminder of the gap between who they are and who they could become. Psychologists call this upward comparison. When people compare themselves to someone who seems ahead, they either feel inspired or insecure. Your aura forces this comparison, whether you intend it or not. Think of it. A colleague sees your discipline and feels guilty about their own procrastination. A friend notices your calm and feels ashamed of their own volatility. A stranger senses your presence and suddenly feels small. It is not your fault. It is not even your intention, but it is your effect. Your aura says, you could be more. And while some embrace that challenge, others retreat from it, intimidated by the light you cast on their shadow. So, do you intimidate people without realizing it? The answer is likely yes. Not because you are harsh, arrogant, or domineering, but because you live with a presence that exposes truths others would rather ignore. Your silence unsettles. Your gaze penetrates. Your standards elevate. Your mystery captivates. Your confidence radiates. Your depth challenges. Your solitude inspires. Your words carry weight. Your authenticity defies games. Your unpredictability destabilizes. Your calm disarms. Your dignity commands. And your being itself reminds others of what they could be. This is the essence of aura. Not something mystical or magical, but something deeply human, profoundly philosophical, and psychologically undeniable. The truth is, intimidation is not always negative. Sometimes it is simply the shadow side of inspiration. People may shrink in your presence because they see in you a mirror of their own untapped greatness. And so, the real question is not, do you intimidate people? The real question is, what will you do with this power? Will you soften yourself to make others comfortable? Or will you stand tall in your presence, allowing your aura to both challenge and inspire? Nietzsche once wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." So if your aura intimidates people, perhaps it is not a curse, but a sign that you are soaring higher than most dare. And in doing so, you give others the chance to rise as well.